The Dow climbed 2 full percentage points. Earnings reports kept rolling in strong. And then, after the bell, SpaceX briefed analysts on orbital expansion timelines. West Texas crude had slid below $75 a barrel, lowest print in weeks, as the standoff with Iran appeared to ease. Treasury yields ticked down, equity volatility compressed. Markets were pricing in resolution, not escalation. But inside the National Security Council's crisis cell, no one was celebrating yet. The Strait of Hormuz remained the choke point. 20% of the world's oil moved through that 33-mile-wide channel between Iran and Oman. For days, Iranian patrol boats had harassed merchant traffic. 3 tankers had turned back. Lloyd's of London spiked insurance premiums. Brent futures whipsawed on every headline. Then the call came in. Iranian intermediaries reached out through Omani channels. They wanted to talk. The Supreme Leader's office signaled willingness to negotiate terms for reopening the strait. No formal acknowledgement, no public statement, just a quiet overture. The president took the call himself. When he came back into the Situation Room, he told the assembled cabinet. They blinked. But the intelligence picture was murkier than the headlines suggested. Central Command reported that the southern transit lane through Hormuz remained technically navigable. US Navy escorts had shepherded over 1,000 vessels through in the past 72 hours. Destroyers flanked every convoy. P-8 Poseidons ran continuous overwatch. Iranian fast attack craft kept their distance, but they were still deployed, engines running, crews aboard, radios active. On the ground in Tehran, street interviews captured a different mood. One woman, filmed outside a shuttered bazaar, said, "We must hold the strait at any cost. We cannot back down, even if they threaten airstrikes, even if they threaten invasion." The rhetoric didn't match the diplomatic signal. Either Tehran's negotiators were operating independently, or the public posture was theater. In Tel Aviv, Israeli defense officials were skeptical. They just launched retaliatory strikes against Hezbollah positions in southern Lebanon after what they described as severe ceasefire violations. Cross-border rocket fire that injured 2 civilians near Kiryat Shmona. The strikes hit weapons depots and command bunkers. Hezbollah's media wing released footage of secondary explosions, claiming the targets were civilian infrastructure. The Israelis released coordinates proving otherwise. Jerusalem's concern wasn't Hezbollah, it was the broader Iranian strategy. If Tehran agreed to open Hormuz, what did they get in return? Sanctions relief? Uranium enrichment concessions? A guarantee the US wouldn't strike nuclear facilities? The National Security Advisor outlined 3 scenarios. Scenario 1, Iran opens the strait, negotiations proceed, and a framework emerges within 48 hours. Oil drops further, markets rally. The administration declares victory. Scenario 2, Iran stalls. They reopen Hormuz partially, demand concessions up front, then close it again when talks stall. The cycle repeats. Crude spikes back above $90. Scenario 3, Iran uses the talks as cover to reposition assets. While diplomats talk in Muscat, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps moves anti-ship missiles closer to the coast. When talks collapse, they hit a US Navy vessel. The president's guidance was clear: proceed with negotiations, but keep the strike package ready. Meanwhile, off the coast of Yemen, a bulk carrier reported an explosion near its stern. No casualties, minor flooding, crew accounted for. Houthi-aligned media claimed responsibility, calling it retaliation for US strikes on weapons storage sites near Sana'a. The ship limped toward Djibouti under its own power. It was a reminder, even if Tehran wanted to de-escalate, its proxies didn't always follow orders. Back in Washington, the political calendar was colliding with the foreign policy crisis. Primaries were wrapping up across the Midwest. In Michigan, Abdul El-Sayed, a progressive candidate who'd built his campaign around opposition to corporate influence and a vocal critique of US support for Israel, was on track to win the Democratic Senate primary. He was scheduled to declare victory at 10:30 that morning. During the July debate, El-Sayed had accused both parties of being bought off by AIPAC, and said American foreign policy had been handed to us by the State of Israel. He called for an end to military aid, condemned operations in Gaza as genocide, and framed the US-Israel relationship as a corruption of democratic accountability. If he won the primary, the general election would become a referendum on Middle East policy in a purple state. AIPAC had already signaled it would pour $100 million into the race. Michigan's Arab-American population, concentrated in Dearborn and surrounding suburbs, was energized. Turnout models were being rewritten. The question wasn't whether El-Sayed's message resonated. It clearly did. The question was what it meant for the coalition that had held the Democratic Party together for decades. Could a party that included both El-Sayed and the Biden administration's national security team remain coherent? One strategist, speaking on background, put it bluntly. The progressive base wants to dismantle the foreign policy consensus. The swing voters we need in November want strength and stability. You can't run both campaigns at once. In the Situation Room, none of this was discussed. The focus was operational. The USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group was holding position in the Gulf of Oman, just outside the strait. 4 destroyers, 2 cruisers, a submarine somewhere below. Flight operations continued around the clock. F-18 Super Hornets cycled through combat air patrols. Tankers orbited offshore, waiting to refuel strike packages if the order came. Iran knew the Lincoln was there. They tracked it with shore-based radar. Their drones overflew the group twice, staying just outside engagement range. The US didn't shoot them down. Not yet. The Deputy Secretary of Defense briefed the president on the strike plan that had been updated overnight. If negotiations failed, the US would hit Iran's naval infrastructure, fast attack boat bases, coastal radar installations, anti-ship missile batteries. The goal wasn't regime change, it was to eliminate Iran's ability to close Hormuz again. Casualty estimates ranged from 300 to 800 Iranian military personnel, depending on whether crews abandoned their positions before the strikes. Collateral damage was assessed as low, but not zero. The president asked one question: if we do this, does it end the problem or start a bigger one? No one had a clean answer. By mid-afternoon, Omani mediators confirmed that talks would continue. Iran had agreed to reopen the strait within 24 hours, pending progress on sanctions relief. The US agreed to pause additional deployments but made no commitments on sanctions. Oil dropped another $3. Equity futures climbed. But in the Oval Office, the president told his chief of staff, "If they back out again, we hit them. Hard. No negotiations. They understand that." Outside on the White House lawn, reporters shouted questions. Markets wanted certainty. Voters wanted resolution. Allies wanted reassurance. Inside, planners were already wargaming what happens if the strait closes again next week. Because the one thing everyone agreed on was this: Iran hadn't changed. They'd adapted. And the next move, whether at the negotiating table, in the strait, or in a Michigan Senate race, would reveal whether this was the beginning of a deal or just another round in a longer game.